Whatcha Know Joe?
I don't know nothing.
Whatcha Know Joe?
Tell me something.
Welcome to the Whatcha Know Joe podcast. This is a very special podcast because I have a guest that I know you will find extremely interesting. You know, great institutions are made up of many things. At USC School of Cinematic Arts, it's a fabulous building. It's state-of-the-art equipment. It's world-class professors and very aggressive, creative students. But all great buildings are built on a foundation, and two, pillars that support all the other elements. At USC School of Cinematic Arts, there are three exceptional pillars. One we've already met, Miss Lisa Fox. We're going to, I hope, in the next few weeks, see another one, Sandrine Cassidy, who's head of festivals and distributions. But this person, this individual, is special for a whole lot of reasons, not the least of which is he's got a great entrepreneurial heart. I give you the amazing Vince Gonzales.
Wow, Joe.
It's another dollar you owe me.
That's probably the best intro I've ever had in my life. I think I'm going to record that and just walk around with it and make people listen
make
to
a T-shirt. Vince, you got here around the same time I did. I started in 2003.
I think I was 2004. Yeah.
So tell people, what is your title and what do you do? And there's a reason.
What is my title? So that title has changed quite a bit. It's currently Arts Laboratory Specialist. And so, you know, first of all, thank you for that amazing intro. That was just fantastic. I'm super.
I'm a producer. I got to lie like the best.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. Currently, what I'm doing is giving support to the cinematography classes shooting film still. The classes shooting film are still very popular. And so I make sure they have their stock. I make sure the classes get their dailies. I make sure they have all the sort of supplies to do that. And then next to that is I coordinate with students that are in advanced projects that are going to color grade in-house. We have a world-class color grading suite.
Yeah.
And so the students that want to use that suite in-house, I coordinate with them. I give them sort of an introduction as to, you know, what they'll need to go in there, how to be successful when they go in there, and things like that. They're really fortunate because it's, you know, even people we have coming in from the outside at different post houses, when we tour them and show them that room, they're super impressed. You know, a lot of them are like, we don't even have something this nice.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
So it's always really exciting to give that opportunity to the students.
And was this a job you sought, or did this job grow up around you?
It kind of grew up around me. I mean, just like this, we're in the brand new podcast studio. Right. Fabio is our working producer right now, and you know he's in the classes and helps supporting this. And so as this podcast environment grew, I grew with it. You know, I had interest in it. I wanted it to be successful. I had some knowledge of it, so I just sort of stepped in the circle and helped them make it.
Well, I know Vince a long time. I know Vince actually a very talented photographer because if I'm not mistaken, you helped on my first commercial for my first book.
Yeah, that's right. We did some publicity stills for your book.
But Vince and I worked on different floors. And although I always saw him and I always liked him and he was always affable and easy to talk to, we just didn't hang out because of the logistics. One day I looked up and in my office was Vince Gonzales, who said to me, you know, you ought to do a podcast. And I remember thinking, who is this guy and what is he talking about? But fortunately, one of Vince's most amazing qualities is he's got an entrepreneurial heart. You have an entrepreneurial heart. I would never have thought of it, and without your encouragement, would never do it. But you really made me see, through your own enthusiasm, that it's why not? It's something, you know, one thing I always said about me, I would talk to the light in the refrigerator, and here's a guy who's actually asking me to talk. So what is it about that makes you so entrepreneurial?
I don't know. Nobody's ever asked me that before. I think that, my mom was very artistic. She wasn't an artist, but in our home, anything that was fancy and artistic, it came from her. So from that influence, I started having a love of art and creativity. And, would do just a lot of projects on my own. And I think it really stemmed from that. But, how do I answer this? There were certain artists that I looked at that really inspired me. Warhol has always been a great inspiration for me because he understood the world that it's not just the painting on the wall. It's the good and bad press. It's the truth and lies about him. It's, this image of him affected the value of the art on the wall. And I could see him paint a picture, like this wider picture of what is art. And so this idea of creating a lifestyle and an image around the individual and the art and the public looking at it all as one thing, I thought was really kind of exciting.
What I admire about that, I hear that, and what I admire about it, look, one of the downsides of working at a wonderful place like this, because I was subject to it too, there's a comfort factor here.
Yeah.
Nice people,
Yeah.
nice surroundings, food in the lobby. It's real easy to get comfortable. And I think comfort is the obstacle to creativity. Very easy. You could have gotten comfortable here.
Well,
But you had that urge to go beyond the walls.
yeah, and I kind of brought that with me before I got here. I had that experience before because years before I even got into entertainment, I worked at McDonnell Douglas aircraft plant in Long Beach. And I worked in a warehouse basically that supplied airplane parts. And it was a great job for my age. It was a lot of money. And I was starting to see people that had that job for a very long time and they had stability, but they weren't getting more skilled and they were getting more comfortable and they were getting houses and cars and building families around these jobs. And I could see the fear in their face that if this job went away, I don't know what I would do.
Wow.
So that had an effect on me.
Sure.
And I ultimately started to get a taste of entertainment. We're talking about I got PA jobs. That was my taste of it. But it was really exciting, and I could see a potential of a different world. None of my family was in entertainment. I didn't have connections. So when I fell into it, it was really kind of exciting. So I ultimately quit that job because I was afraid of that comfort. Mm-hmm. And so it's a constant fight for me to not. Comfort is sometimes.
I think comfort's the enemy of
parasitic to innovation, right?
Yes.
And so as I say that, I would think that I would be further along in life if I wasn't building so much comfort around me. But I'm constantly reminded that this is great, this is nice, what's scary, what's different, what do I want to experience is really where it comes down to. I'm creating environments that I want to experience.
Right.
So if it's photography or fashion or the podcasting, nobody's asking me to do it. I was like, I want to do this and play with it. Do you want to do it?
Yeah.
That's kind of how I approached you on this.
Right. But are you able to talk about some of your other endeavors? Are they far enough along? Are you comfortable with them?
They're in constant progress.
I don't want to get you fired here. I was just asking.
No, I mean, the photography it's funny because coming up and, I have conversations with students all the time about like what they're interested in, what they're doing. And sometimes I'll say that's where you are in this moment and that may change. And, having your peripheral wide enough so that when you discover something new, you have the emotional intelligence to explore it. I started taking pictures on a Nikon FM2 eons ago and just sort of fell in love with it and became better and better and better. I was pretty much self-taught. And so that was exciting for me because I realized once I technically understood the camera, I could start storytelling with it. And then, I started just taking pictures with like friends and it turned into portraits. And then I was starting to get paid jobs. And then ultimately, I ended up I was a contributor to Getty Images for a while, and was doing that. I was doing some entertainment, some lifestyle. I had some fashion clients. I had a fine art series that ultimately showed at the Pickford Center at the Academy twice.
Wow.
And so, I was really felt blessed to have those experiences,
Right.
because that's not, when I was a little kid, that was not the trajectory
Sure.
that I thought I would go.
But you also have other, if I'm not mistaken, I don't want to get ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
Do you not have other podcast or videography stuff going
So,
on?
yeah, the podcast, this was born out of COVID, really. We were all
Right.
sitting at home on
Right.
Zoom all the time. And from there, I thought, well, what if the image quality was better? What if the content was better? And if it was, what do I do with it? And then from there, I was like, well, I wanted to start a podcast. I wanted to have the experience of actually producing one. And then we did it. I did it. And then it was from there, I created a new content as of last year called the Creative Block.
Yes.
So the Creative Block is artists and creatives exploring Web3 and emerging tech. So for me, I was really fascinated about this new wave of technology coming. I'm not a technician, so I'm not going to build anything, but I could create media around the conversation. And so I created this podcast. It's a learning experience for me. It puts me in a community of super interesting people, and hopefully those conversations, can connect with people, and they
Well,
can learn too with me.
Well, if it connects with people out beyond the immediate USC, is it the kind of thing where someone would contact you and say, Mr. Gonzales, I want to do a thing about icebergs in Philadelphia?
Oh, I see what you're as a podcast producer.
Content of any kind.
Yeah. Well, I mean, always open to anything. It's one of those things where if it's an interesting project, if it's an interesting group of people, we could actually say something, share real stories. Of course, anything. I'm currently, continuing to work on my podcast. I'm producing the Whatcha Know Joe podcast. And then this year we're going to launch, my wife is a casting director in animation, and we're going to launch her podcast.
Oh, excellent.
My Big Cartoon Life. And she's been in the business 25, 30 years. She was the original casting director on SpongeBob, and she's, really well connected and has access to, all the key players in animation voiceover. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm really grateful just to be, being at USC is sort of a rarefied environment where the quality of people, the students, the staff, the faculty is really just kind of world class.
It's an incredible intellectual curiosity
Yeah.
Across the board.
Yeah. And so it's really inspiring. I'm really, it inspires me. It always I always have this feeling that if I'm going to create something or make something, I have to put the honest work in because my peers are doing really incredible work,
Do you feel competition, or is it your inner drum that's beating constantly? See, for me, it's always my inner drum. It drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Because I'm never satisfied and I'm never done.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would say so. It's a combination of that. It's a inner competition in that, I'm always self-judging the content, and I'm always asking myself, did you do enough work in this? Is it honest enough, or are you just checking boxes? Sort of asking myself that all the time.
Right.
And then I'm, hopefully I'm looking at the outside world. I'm paying attention to how consumers are consuming, what the trends are. Not that it influences my work, but it matters as I tell stories. I want them to be heard, so I have to look at the current languages.
Well, in going back to your reference to Andy Warhol and how you felt he was more than just a painting on a wall, I think that's very prophetic, because that is how you look at it. And ultimately, I think probably, and I say that because I'm the complete opposite. I'm so locked focus in my own little world, I wouldn't know what's going on in it.
Right.
I think ultimately that quality will absolutely stand in your stead. I mean, look at Adine, who we both admire a
Yeah.
great deal. Her greatest quality, well, she got a lot of great qualities, but one of her great is her ability to see across the horizon line.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And I think there's some of that in your soul too.
Yeah. There's
And,
always a hunger. I don't want to be at the party and be listening to everybody and say, I don't know what these people are talking about. So I have this, and part of the Creative Block podcast that's the vehicle for that for me personally, so that I could at least have the language and understanding of what's happening. I don't have to be a professional at it, but,
But you have to understand.
Yeah.
Where will the Creative Block be seen? Do you want to plug it? Do you?
Oh, yeah. You could look at the Chiron below. We'll put links in the show notes, and
Okay.
it's on YouTube. It's primarily a YouTube thing. It's on Spotify. It's on Apple TV, Apple Podcasts, and all the same channels yours is. And
Well, thank you for doing this. I don't know if we're over in time or under in time. I don't know.
we are the kings of our kingdom. So
We
you
are
call
the
it.
kings of our kingdom. And there is that sandwich downstairs. Let's get
Yes.
real.
Half a Subway sandwich. We're all thinking about that right now.
So, Vince, thank you very much. And till we meet again.
Thank you. I really appreciate you making the time for this.
You bet.
Take care.
My pleasure. Take care.
Thanks.
Ah.